So we want to make sure that their blood and their body's in optimal position to receive the stem cell. Mark Coleman, former UFC heavyweight champ, he was just down there.
If you could just enlighten me, where do the actual stem cells come from?
So that really has nothing to do with stem cell. That has more to do with plasma.
Welcome to another episode here at Empire is the Way. I got Rustin Savarese all the way from Medellin. He's the owner, founder, and CEO of Stem Cell Rejuvenation International. And basically, he's here with us to talk about longevity, about biohacking, changing the dynamics of the body, and living longer, living healthier. And basically, he's changing lives. So I appreciate you for coming in, my brother. Thank you so much.
Fun. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. So what got you into the whole longevity field? How did that come about?
Honestly, like most of my life, it's a Forrest Gump type approach. I've been in medical for maybe the past 15 years now. I was actually looking for a solution to some problems that I had. I've herniated discs, 3 herniated discs in my neck, compressed, degenerative, and pinching nerves. Had 5 knee surgeries on my right knee, 3 knee surgeries on my left knee. Going to see doctors, I had 2 options. One of them was to do a fusion on my neck, and the other one is where they put the little donut in. And I spoke to, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 people that have had those type of operations, and everybody came back to me and nobody with positive results. I've heard people when they get knee replacements or hip replacements say they feel fantastic. I have a lot of friends that are runners that, their knees go and they'll tell you right away if there's something wrong with that to get it done. But everybody I spoke to about my neck and talked about the spine that had the surgery, it just sounded like shit and worse. They have to cut you in the front of your neck. They have to move basically your windpipe over to get to the area. So after the surgery, you can't swallow, you have to sit up straight. It takes months and months to heal. And the end results, when I say to people, do you feel better? Nobody was raving about it. Mm-hmm. So I was in the Dominican Republic working on some holistic clinics from a company out of Canada. And through the internet and other people started hearing about stem cell, listening to Joe Rogan and other shows, started hearing about stem cell. Found myself on another business project in Colombia and started doing the research. Found out that Colombia is one of the hubs for stem cell. They're top rated in the world. Their medical system is ranked higher than the United States and Canada. So I started to go to the bigger clinics. There's some big clinics in Mexico, Panama, and Colombia. And when I called the clinic, started talking to people, I got a salesperson. And in order to do this, I had to take that step and this step. So I was very leery about doing it. I really didn't understand the people that I was talking to. I really didn't feel that confident with. So throughout my meeting people in Colombia, I had a couple of people say, well, this guy does stem cell and this. And I started looking up to find different doctors that are in Colombia that were stem cell specialists. So I decided to go in and spend time with them. And I spoke to maybe 3 or 4 doctors directly at this point and started getting the lowdown on stem cell. What it came down to for me was worst case scenario, if I do the stem cell in my neck, if it doesn't work, I'm in the same position that I was in before. Then I'd have to go for the surgery. But why not try a less invasive procedure first and see if it works? And did the stem cell for about 15 years. I toss and turn all night. Ex-girlfriend called me flipper because I have to move all the time because my arms were constantly falling asleep and getting numb. About 3 or 4 months after I did the stem cell, I was sitting down and went to get up. My leg was asleep. And I realized, oh my God, my arms haven't fallen asleep in weeks now. I can sleep through the entire night now. All the pain I was getting, the radiation from the neck. And at that point, I started talking to the doctors and said, let's put something together. Let's do things a little bit differently. And that's what brought me in. So my own needs, my own personal issues is what brought me into the stem cell or biohacking world.
So the first stem cell treatment that you got was how long ago?
About 2 years ago now,
2 years ago now.
maybe a little over 2 years.
And the Stem Cell Rejuvenation International has been open for about that long, no?
Took me about 3 or 4 months after I realized the results I was getting to say that I am going into the stem cell business. And
So what got you into it was really the results and just maybe like, wow, this is something that I need to put out into the world? Or?
yeah, I've been in medical, been in sales and marketing my whole life and have businesses my entire life. Last 10 or 15 years, found myself in the medical industry, working with some of the top doctors and clinics. Have partnerships with some medical groups and some surgical clinics. So I had some experience opening up clinics and working directly with doctors. So it was just kind of a natural going into. I started looking at the industry itself, the biohacking, for lack of a better term, industry, which is kind of broad, but the growth, the expectations of that industry. Plus, if you look at the climate right now, people are now talking about their diet. They're understanding that the food, that what they're putting in relates to their body, and the stuff is all interconnected with stem cell. So when you're talking about a diet, you're talking about doing cold plunges, you're talking about doing sauna. It's all talking about the same thing, rejuvenating the cells, rejuvenating the body. So it's kind of all in the same industry, and that industry is growing pretty big right now. So from a medical side of being able to help people, there was a lot of positive. And then from a business side, looking at it from a marketing side, it's a big industry that's growing right now.
I would say probably the elephant in the room when it comes down to stem cells is, there's a lot of talk about, drinking baby's blood and it comes from the baby. So if you could just enlighten me, where do the actual stem cells come from? How are they obtained?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of things, and one of the reasons I chose Colombia to open the clinic, I looked in places in Mexico, Panama, and I was kind of deciding where I was going to open shop. One of the reasons I chose Colombia is because of the standards and the procedures there, and the medical council there. Their medical tourism there is huge. So their medical system, I cannot tell you how unbelievable it is in Colombia. When you go to the hospitals there, you go to the clinics there, everything is top notch. The laboratories there, they're under a different standard because it's a main income source for Colombia, medical tourism. A lot of people know about plastic surgery there. A lot of people know about dental work there. Go down.
Yeah.
Some of the best plastic surgeons in the world are in Colombia. My doctors that I work with in the United States who are plastic surgeons, they go to Colombia for training. So leading back to your question there, it goes into the standards, okay? And I hear the rumors and you hear people are drinking babies' blood. So that really has nothing to do with stem cell. That has more to do with plasma. And the reality of that is, first of all, I don't know, maybe there are people in the world that are drinking blood, but it has nothing to do with the medical field that I'm talking about. So sometimes what they'll do is they're taking the blood itself, spinning it for platelets, and it's rejuvenating. And some people think that that's stem cell. It's not actually stem cell. Where the stem cell comes from is it comes from the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord, one side's attached to the mother, the other side is attached to the baby. So it has nothing to do with the embryo. It has to do with the umbilical cord. The umbilical cord itself from the donors, before a donor can donate, they have to go through a very rigorous process. They have to go through a lot of tests. They have to be certified. And then the stem cell itself, the umbilical cord has to be certified before they extract the stem cell from it. So it's actually a pretty elaborate procedure. And that's why not a lot of countries have it, because there isn't a demand. There was 2 different governing bodies in Colombia, and now there's a 3rd governing body just for this industry in Colombia. So there are no babies being killed for it. There's no blood drinking. It's simply the umbilical cord that's taken after the birth of a child.
And these umbilical cords, are they just, you're saying that they have to pass through rigorous tests for anybody, I guess, to be able to, extract stem cells from it? You get stem cells, and what do? They put it in a centrifuge? Do they multiply them, or do they? You have only a limited amount per patient? How does that work? Because I've heard like billions of cells get injected every time they get a usage. So what's the amounts? How does that work?
So the exosomes, which come from the stem cell, those are counted in billions. the stem cells itself are counted in millions. So a normal procedure will be anywhere between 50 million to 100 million.
Right. And
Now,
exosomes are?
exosomes are derived from the stem cell itself. They're very good for bringing down inflammation inside of the body. Depending on the patient and what their needs, it might be a combination of both of them that the patient gets. I personally, from what I've put together and the team of doctors that we've put together now, like a combination of both procedures. So a lot of people will be price shopping, and when I tell them you're price shopping, you're going to get a cheap price. But if you want it done it right and you want to get the results, you got to stop worrying about how cheap one injection is going to be in the actual whole procedure. So a combination procedure, and we can talk about it if you like, I'll give you some examples where we've used the combination. So exosomes are derived from the stem cell. The stem cell themselves, going back to your original question, they're called, there's a terminology called generations. So looking at a stem cell and going back to the price issue, you also have to look at the quality of the stem cell and the procedures, the laboratory that it comes from. So for example, going back to Colombian standards, the worldwide standards are 82% the potency and the quality of the stem cell. In Colombia, Colombian standards are 98% or higher. So that's their marker in the country for something that gets approved to be used.
So it's 16 points above the general standard, so to speak.
Correct. So it's one of the highest standards, if not the highest standards in the
Who
world.
else has a standard comparable to Colombia?
Germany, probably the next in line. I'd say they're probably the creators of this, and they probably have some of the best quality in there.
So Mexico and Panama, are they getting the same type of stem cells, or maybe the quality is lower? They're using like the stuff that nobody wants.
Yeah, so Panama is a good destination also. They have a different procedure. You were talking about the procedure, and you also mentioned the cloning, which I didn't finish, was when you were asking about how it clones inside. So there's different generations. So you can actually clone these. So you don't want to get a clone that's from the original, that's 5th generation, 6th generation. So when you talk about Mexico, I really don't know the standards there. I know Colombia, we can't go past the 3rd cloning generation.
Got it.
So other places, if it's cloned and cloned, now what happens there is you don't need a donor. You already have the donor, so you can continuously clone it. So now it's a cheaper price. It doesn't have the same quality. It starts going down. Yeah. So when people are price shopping, if you don't know exactly what you're getting, you could be getting something that's 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th generation, as opposed to 1 or 2 or 3 generations of the cloning.
Right.
Panama uses the same stem cells that we do. They produce it slightly different. I believe it's either an oxygen-rich environment and an oxygen-poor environment. I can't remember correctly. But one of the things Colombia has now done with that new association there is they have now allowed the labs to do it both ways. So it's one of the only countries that you can actually get it produced in both ways. Same thing with the exosomes. Exosomes, there's numerous types of exosomes of the procedures for different things. Very difficult to find them because there's not a big market for it. So in order for a laboratory to produce them, there obviously needs to be some sort of market. So finding all the specific different types of exosomes is difficult. For in other words, ones for your lungs compared to ones that you might use for hair growth are produced slightly different. Colombia is now going to be the only country that produces all the different types of exosomes. They're really standing themselves out now to be one of the leaders in the world for this type of treatment.
So if they're all derived from the umbilical cord, then I guess the what changes what they're good for. For example, you just mentioned hair, or I would assume for any type of different usage, it's how the lab themselves adds something to it for it to be able.
How it's produced. Let's take like a peptide, for example.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So a peptide is basically all just 3 branches of amino acids blended differently to create a different type of peptide to get a different type of result. Basically the same type of thing. So it's just the way that it's produced, the way that it's extracted gives you a different result, and slightly different here, slightly different there, and better use. For example, you cannot use stem cell for cancer. The book really isn't written yet when it comes to stem cell and cancer. There can either be great results or it goes horribly wrong. So they haven't really written.
When it comes down to cancer.
Cancer, right. But exosomes now have been proven and very effective for people that had lung damage. So if you had lung damage from cancer, if the cancer is gone now, or from COVID, there is a specific type of exosome that's showing fantastic results. And the procedures are getting more and more advanced now. The more people are using it, the more doctors are experimenting with the type of procedures. I was just watching something recently. It's an association, one of the few associations that are in the in the international community for stem cells, and they've come up with a new formula for treating the lungs. So it has more to do with the treatments and the amount of time, how many billions of units that you're getting in each treatment, the time period before each treatments. So things like that are still kind of being worked out. When it comes to sports-related injury or anti-immune issues, the book is kind of written on that stuff already. So the more this grows, the more it's being used, the more procedures are coming out.
Yeah. Your brand is dedicated more to, would it be to sports, people in the sports industry, fighters, or any type of people that need the, I guess, to the longevity? Is it geared towards somebody's more specific?
Yeah, so we're looking more for people that are in the health and fitness community, people that are weekend warriors or were athletes or athletes now. I really want to specifically focus on that niche, people that are looking for anti-aging. Again, going back to business, I've kind of seen this before. So there are clinics out there that do everything. As it grows and the industry is growing by 16% annually, I think there's going to be more niches where people focus on a specific type of person. So there are people that are in motorcycle accidents, that are being treated with stem cell right now. And I think there's other places that are a lot more advanced than we are, that I would pass them off. There are people with neurological issues, dementia, stuff like that, that I would rather pass off also, not only just for a business standpoint, but I don't know how to make money off of somebody that has dementia. If somebody comes to me, I feel bad. I don't want, and if it doesn't help them, people that are in those type of situations hear what they want to hear. And I don't want to give anybody false hope where we can't tell them, pretty assuredly. I'd rather tell a 50-year-old guy that has ACL issues that, we have a 60% chance of this being successful. It's non-invasive. Let's try it first. If it doesn't work, then you can go have the knee surgery. Mm-hmm. I can sleep well at night handling conversations like that. But when it comes into more of these autoimmune deficiencies and neurological type conditions, I think there's other people that are better prepared for that. And that's kind of how we've built now. The doctors that I brought on staff, from when you and I first met, you met the first doctor that we brought on. We brought on 4 additional doctors. We have 5 now, each with their own specialty. For example, one is focusing on the anti-aging factors. One is focusing mainly on sports-related injuries, knees, shoulders, stuff like that. The other one is more focused on spinal problems, neck and back. So they all have their individual little specialties. So we will combine whatever doctors that person needs for the treatment. We also do a more complete treatment, meaning that if you come to me with a knee injury, we're not looking just to jab a needle into your knee. We're going to start off by looking at your whole medical history, taking blood work, seeing where your body is. In order to get the best results for the stem cell, you want your body to be in ultimate ranges. There's different markers in your blood, for example. So let's say that your hemoglobins are low. We want to treat that problem first before we're doing the full stem cell treatment, so that your chances of results with the stem cell go up. If you're not doing those blood tests and you're not doing those previous procedures, it lessens the effect of the stem cell.
Right. And we were talking about even somebody, for example, a person who's overweight, who is not working out, is not training, and is not constantly getting some kind of movement in their body. If they have some type of injury and they want to use stem cells, the rate of them healing is very low compared to somebody who is a weekend warrior, somebody who's moving around, right? And you told me maybe the percentage is pretty low when it comes down to that.
Yeah, it's not you're not going to see results. It's just for the optimal results. And let's take it in another train. Let's say that you work out all the time, but you eat shitty food and you're out partying on the weekend. That workout's only going to get you so far. Your body is only going to go so far if you're not introducing those other factors into it. So for me to work with somebody that's already healthy, that's already strong and now they're looking to improve or to correct an injury or something like that, I know our chances or results, will go up. Plus it's the mentality too. We're working with more athletes. I know that if I'm working with an athlete that you cannot give them the treatment where, you have to sit and do nothing for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. We're going to be back in the gym 2 days later. So I have to treat that person knowing you're going to be back in the gym 2 days later. When this finger here, I broke it in a jiu-jitsu tournament, went to the doctor, and the doctor said, it's going to be, 10 weeks and we have to have surgery on this finger and all this stuff. And I said to him, this is when I was younger, I said, so if Michael Jordan came in here and it was a couple of days to the playoffs and he broke this one finger, you would tell him he can't play in the playoffs and he has to go have this surgery. And the doctor looked at me and said, well, you're not Michael Jordan. I said, no, I'm not going to, slam dunk a ball from 20 feet out. But don't tell me I don't have the same mentality that I'm going to be training the next day and that I have to go 10 weeks for this. And sure enough, the finger healed fine. When I was looking for the last ACL surgery that I had, my doctor that I've had from the University of Miami for years retired. I went to go speak to a few other doctors. I'm 53 now, I was 50 at the time. They were giving me a 50-year-old man's treatment plan. I found a doctor that works with only athletes, works with the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Hurricanes, to do my knee. He knew instantly that I was going to be back in the gym. Our plan is how do we recuperate as quick as possible? How do we get back to where I was and get better than where I was before? That's the type of people we want to work with.
How long do you think is till we get stem cells into the general public? Like it becomes just another addition. And I think it's a more elite addition to like what people would do regularly. For example, going to a place, doing your cold plunge, getting some different types of biohacking treatment plus stem cells. How long do you think it's until we get that?
In the United States?
Yeah, in the United States.
For the treatments here, I think a long time, not in the foreseeable future that you can get it done in the United States. So that I have a couple of clinics we're working with now that refer patients. They do stem cell, but they call theirs stem cell light. Mm-hmm. Mine is stem cell advanced. So they actually send us patients. One of my best clients that has a clinic in Montana, her husband was actually hit by a Mack truck, swears by stem cells. They spoke to our doctors, they have their own doctors, and they decided to come to us to get their treatment just because of what we're able to do. The process of getting it approved is where you run into the problem. So if you're trying to get FDA approval for something, you can't get FDA approval for all this stuff. It has to be specifically for one thing. Gets approved, moves on to the next. So to be able to say that we can use stem cell for everything. So now in the US, you can get a low amount of stem cell injected like into the knee. You can't do intravenous. Exosomes, I believe, are only subcutaneous now. So for facial procedures, which leads you back to the FDA. So a lot of times when you have these treatments, and I'll give you an example away from stem cell, there's a laboratory in Miami right now working with embryonic fluid. Amazing, amazing results. They're doing the treatments out of the country because they can't do them here, even though the lab that's here. They had 2 people with MS that were in wheelchairs. They used the embryonic...
The MS is?
Multiple sclerosis or muscular dystrophy, multiple sclerosis, I believe. Mm-hmm. In wheelchairs. One of them was in a wheelchair for 10 years. The other one was in a wheelchair for 3 years. They gave them this treatment. Within 3 or 4 treatments, both of these guys are walking again. Pretty amazing, right?
Yeah.
Problem is there is no market to spend $200 million getting that FDA approved. So where they're trying to get that approved right now is like a Botox anti-aging. That's where the investors go in and put money. So even though this one treatment can save these people, if you don't have hundreds of millions of dollars to get it FDA approved, you're not going to be approved to do that. And if it does something, for example, in the beauty or in the anti-aging market, then you move quicker into it because that's going to sell more. So the whole system here in the United States, and I think people are starting to wake up to this. Unfortunately, it seems to be turning more into a political issue now than it is a health issue. But the system here in the United States is kind of backwards, right? It's we don't prevent the disease, we get the disease, and then we treat the disease. When you're talking about stem cell and you're talking about anti-aging or preventative type medicine, the idea is to stop you from getting those diseases in the first place. So eating the proper diet, for example, doing these things you talked about that are in that biohacking space, like cold plunges and saunas or red light, is to build up those cells to get your body stronger so that you don't get these diseases. And our whole system in the United States is kind of built backwards.
Yeah.
There's I think they call him the barefoot doctor. It's from China. And it was a system that was in China. And if you listen to how this was, it's exactly how it should be. So they would have a doctor per village. And all the people in the village would pay the doctor monthly. But if the person got sick, they would stop paying the doctor. So the doctor made less money when people were sick, made more money when everybody was healthy. So it now became his job to make sure they were eating healthy, that they were taken care of, because if they didn't get sick, then he made more money keeping them healthy. That is the complete opposite system of what we have in the United States.
Wouldn't that be something, huh?
As more people that are sick here is how we make money. But I think the world is starting to wake up to us. I think Americans are starting to wake up to this. I wish it wasn't so political, but it is true. Our food, and everybody I think is starting to see it now, is dangerous. It's leading to all these problems. And I think preventative medicine in the future is really going to be the key word that'll come out of the biohacking.
Yeah, it sounds to me like that might be the case. The guy that got hit by the truck that we were just talking about, you were telling me a story. Was he the one that was survived 8 times?
Yeah. I think he died 8 times on the operating table during surgeries. Got hit by a Mack truck, destroyed his back. I'll give you a backstory. This guy's from Montana. He hunts bears. So just picture a guy in Montana that hunts bears, and you'd probably get this big, strong guy. He's older in his 60s now, but he has young children. Imagine that. And he likes to go hiking with them and hunting with them. And his goal wasn't just to be able to walk. It was to be able to get better. He wants to get stronger as he's getting older. He's had multiple surgeries. One of the things he said to me was he wished he would have found out about stem cell earlier, because he wouldn't have had a lot of these surgeries. But he swears by stem cell. We got a lot of clients from now. Him and his wife are actually coming down for additional treatments. But this guy went from literally getting hit, and not in a car. He was standing on the road, and he got run over by a Mack truck. They told him that he had a very small chance of living, that he would never walk again, and now he's in the woods hiking with his children. So,
Isn't that something?
Take something like my right knee. I've had multiple meniscus tears. What happens when you have the meniscus tear is the doctor goes in and he shaves the meniscus. Where after a while, there is no more cartilage left, and you become bone on bone, and then you have to go and get a knee replacement from that. When you use the stem cell regrows the cartilage. So if you take out all of the cartilage that's in your knee and then try to get the stem cell, there's no more cartilage left in there. But if you start doing the stem cell at the same time, you're going to regrow that cartilage in the knee, so it eventually doesn't get all shaved down. I wish I would have known this years ago, because I have that problem of bone on bone. We did a direct injection into my knee, almost 50 million units on the stem cell. There's just no cartilage left from all the surgeries that I've had.
Right. So if there's no cartilage left, it's not the stem cell is not going to regrow cartilage that's not there. It's just going to grow.
Correct.
There has to be a base there.
Has to be something there to regrow or to regenerate. So when they shave it all out of you, there's nothing there to regrow or regenerate any longer.
So, for example, let's say the injury that McGregor sustained on the leg when he broke his leg. What would be the process to add stem cells to that, and how long can a person expect? Because he's a day in, day out professional fighter. I mean, that's totally different. But from that perspective, what would be the healing process? How long can it happen?
Yeah, so clearly, I mean, I don't know all that much about the injury other than what I saw, on Instagram and there. It was a horrific injury that honestly, I think that most people, if they had that injury, might have lost their leg or the use of it. But because he's Conor McGregor and get the best medical attention, stem cell wouldn't have cured that. Obviously, he needs to have the surgery. I believe they put a rod in. They had to actually put a titanium rod in his leg. So the treatment would be very similar to, we just had Mark Coleman, former UFC heavyweight champ. He was just down there. Mark Coleman, and this will be a kind of maybe a little bit of a stretch from your question, but I'll go over his treatment plan. Very similar to something that we might, with Conor McGregor.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Mark Coleman, he had a pretty rough year this year. He had a hip replacement. It didn't take, it got infected. He had a second hip replacement. It didn't take, it got infected. During that period of time, he was in a house fire. He saved his mother and father from a house fire, went back in to get his dog and collapsed, almost died of smoke inhalation. After that, they found out they had to take the second hip replacement out. They had to put a prosthetic in for 4 weeks, and then they put the new prosthetic in after the 4 weeks after the infection was gone. This is how he came to us. So 3 different infections, 4 different hip surgeries, almost died in a house fire, and this is how he shows up coming to Colombia with us. So our first step was to do blood test on him, analysis of where he is. Obviously, the inflammation in his body was extremely high from all the trauma that he has sustained. He was having wheezing and problems with his lungs from the smoke inhalation. On top of that, he had separate issues with his knees from all the wear and tear, just normal arthritis type conditions and overusage type conditions from his fighting career. Same thing with both shoulders, we found. So the common with most places that I see would have been to inject the shoulders and the knees with stem cell and call it a day. We started off on a longer term treatment plan. Mm-hmm. So his treatment plan consisted of, we started off with exosomes. So he had direct exosome injections into both knees. We didn't want to do the full stem cell treatment because we should wait about 90 days after the surgery for his hip. So we did intravenous stem cell, did 50 million intravenous stem cell, 25 billion, 25 billion, 25 billion, and 25 billion exosomes in his shoulders. We also did inhalation exosomes for his lung damage. He had a number of markers in his blood that were very low, like his hemoglobins and a few other things. So after we did this initial treatment, we sent him back home. He's on supplements now. Just spoke to him yesterday, by the way, saying he feels fantastic. He's going to be coming back in December. We're going to do the direct treatments for the stem cells into the actual shoulder. So you can have exosome treatments and stem cell treatments either intravenously, directly injected into the joint or around that area. You can also have exosome treatments subcutaneous, like for regenerative, to regenerate the collagen inside of your face and stuff like that. Excellent results. Also, people with impotency problems, amazing results. Men over 42, prostate problems. I can't even tell you, just amazing results with prostate, bringing down the inflammation. So our main goal, like it would be with Conor McGregor, is to bring down that inflammation in the body, make sure his blood levels are correct, get the intravenous injection. You cannot do a direct injection into the prostate itself. It'll actually damage the prostate, but you can do it in the area. And there's actually a acid that you can do at the same time that keeps the stem cell into that area. The nice thing about the stem cell, whether you're getting it intravenously or getting it directly injected, it has a tendency, the cells, to find the cells that are inflamed and then repair those cells. So even if you're doing it one way or another, it's still going to go out throughout the body, and it kind of searches out for inflammation and problems and sticks to those areas and helps create a stronger cell inside those areas, which help regenerate.
So that's why the intravenous is still a good process to go through anyway, because the cells would kind of move around and find the spot.
So I'll have people calling me with the price question, and they'll say, hey, how much is it to get my knee injected? And there's a couple of things that come into that, determining how many units are you going to need. Are you going to need 25, 50, 100 million? So depending on what the damage is, looking at the MRIs will make that decision. I'm lucky enough that most of the clients that come to me, pricing isn't much of an issue. So what I basically say to them is, let's do it the correct way. Let's make sure, if the doctor's telling me 50 million for your knee, let's do another 50 million intravenously. I have seen personally, over the past 2 years, everybody that we've treated with 100 million units within 3 to 6 months is calling me back, telling me how fantastic they feel. We have just now in the past year started introducing exosomes into the treatment also. Before it was an option, now I'm kind of making it mandatory. And again, it comes down to the results. If you're price shopping, we can do it at a cheap price, but if we really want the results, then I recommend everybody the exosomes also. That's also going to reduce the inflammation inside of the body. It's just the reaction between the two. First of all, the exosomes, you'll almost receive an immediate results. Everybody that takes it within 2 days tell me how much better they feel. The reason they're feeling better is because the inflammation in their body has gone down.
Right.
Long term, the stem cells need 6 months, 8 months, all the way up to a year and a half to like really regenerate the tissue or damage or discs that are compressed. It needs a little bit longer to get those type of results. It's not a straight line, the stem cells, and like any recovery. I don't know if you've had any injuries yourself.
Nothing major. I mean, up to this day, I haven't broken a bone, and I've been through some shit. So I'm actually wondering, when you're an athlete, let's say, and you're doing very well, what kind of benefits could you get from a treatment? Just saying, you know what, I'm curious about that. I want to add that to my regimen. What type of positive results can I see from that at that point, with no injury?
Now it becomes more preventative medicine when you're talking about that, anti-aging and preventative medicine. No matter if you haven't been injured before, you're still getting older. Your cells are still getting older. Your body's getting older. Anybody that's listening now, once we hit 47 to 53 years old, we're all going to see a major difference. Going from 30 to 40, you see a difference.
Yeah.
It used to, I could break my arm, and then 2 weeks later it was healed and I was back. Now I get up out of bed and stretch and something pops and I'm hurt for 3 weeks. So it's, so you're looking more preventative type medicine right now. So we do, and when I say we, I'm putting myself in that athlete's mindset, because or the people that we're treating, it's all the same mindset. We're all in the gym, we're all training, we're eating right, we do everything we possibly can to take care of ourselves. And no matter how much you take care of yourself, your cells are still decreasing, your HGH levels are still going down, your testosterone levels are still going down. Doesn't matter how much we train. I mean, there are things that we can eat to potentially boost our testosterone levels and our HGH levels, but we're still never going to get them back to when they were optimal when we were 20 years old. So the body is aging. So the benefits of the stem cell are really that anti-aging at that point. So not only is there intravenous treatment that I'm going to start and documenting also, I have noticed that the collagen in my face has decreased immensely in the past 2 years. I've aged more in the past 2 years than I think I have in the past 10 years. And it's the collagen. Collagen, your face goes. So there is a combination of a stem cell exosome treatment that you can do subcutaneous that I'm going to start doing. So I'm actually going to be able to document what this does. God, I hope it works. I've seen the results on other people. It's amazing. And you don't need plastic surgery. And you're just, again, regenerating. So an athlete, let's take it, for instance. Let's talk about testosterone and HGH. There's so much information right now on the internet about testosterone and HGH that wasn't around when I was a kid.
Yeah. But it's. I mean, I think in the last 10 years, it's definitely taken a lot. There's a lot more information now. Like it's easy to access because of social media, and you could go to YouTube University and try to find out. But what's the real deal?
Your body is going to lose testosterone. We all know this as we get older. Somebody like myself that used testosterone when they were in their 20s just to be bigger and stronger, I wish I could go back and talk to that 20-year-old kid.
What would you say to him?
I would tell him, check your diet, eat 6 meals a day, train hard, get yourself to a certain point. And then if you see you're at that and you're doing everything you can possibly do and doing it correctly, and you still want to go further, then use it wisely. But if you're not doing all those other steps, it's ridiculous to take testosterone or steroids and put it in there. My diet has gradually gotten better as I've gotten older. I did a contest maybe 3 years ago. I wish I would have done that contest when I was in my 20s, because you learn so much about your body, mentally, the change, being able to discipline yourself to be able to do that. understanding really what it takes for your body to be in that type of shape. Plus, it feels fucking good when you're in that type of shape. I wish I would have done it earlier. So this testosterone shouldn't be a supplement if you're looking to get into, if you're a younger kid looking to get into bodybuilding. It should be part of, I've done all this other stuff and now I want more. I saw a kid on the internet, he's 26, 27 years old, that did it correctly. I wish I would have saved it so I could have sent it to you. But he started off, he was 165 pounds. Great shape, great build. He shows himself over a 3-year period of time, put on 30 pounds in 3 years. Now, most people are going to put on 20 or 30 pounds in 6 months. It's not realistic. The body can really only grow at a certain rate. To put on 5 or 6 pounds of solid muscle per year, even if you're using testosterone, that's a lot of muscle to put on per year. So he did this over a 3-year period of time. Shows himself halfway through, did a moderate 2 cycles in there, went from like, I think 160 to 185. Looked exactly the same, but just bigger. Then he did another cycle going into the next year. He's now up to 205. But the kid looks exactly the same. His body fat has decreased a little bit. His shape is exactly the same. So you can tell he's been hitting that diet hard. He's been hitting the gym. He's not faking it, not eating a bunch of crap. He's done everything probably perfectly to get himself to that position. As we get older, and this is, again, if I could talk to myself when I was a kid, I would say, do all these steps first. You're going to need testosterone as you start getting older, but to abuse it at a certain age, and there's abuse of testosterone, which really kills your body's natural production of testosterone. And a lot of guys that were in athletic sports have gotten themselves into that position where they've used it so much, abused it to a certain degree that their body just is producing less of it right now. So now they need to be on it just to keep normal levels. And let's talk about normal levels. Normal levels doesn't mean exactly what it sounds like. In other words, testosterone levels 20 years ago, what was considered normal, were much higher than what's considered today. Normal is considered what the average person has. So the average person's testosterone has decreased. So 20 years ago, where the average was much higher. And again, I think this is because of the food, because of the diets and what we're doing to themselves. So now what you have is you have a lot of men 35, 40, 50 years old, depressed. Their head is foggy. They're cloudy. They're not thinking correctly. They're slow. They don't want to get off the couch. And they're basically a lot of depressed men out there. And when they look at something like testosterone, they're thinking, because they go on the internet, they see a guy that's, 240 pounds of ripped muscle, and that's their image of testosterone. And they think it's cheating. It's something that's bad for you. It's the wrong image to have. That guy needs testosterone. His testosterone, his HGH levels are so low right now, which is keeping him in this funk. So there's a reason that testosterone was created in the first place. So getting back to the stem cell, we're basically talking about the same thing. Your cells are deteriorating, your HGH levels are going down, your testosterone levels are going down. So to be able to produce these and get yourself up to normal levels is going to not age you. It's going to make you stronger. The more muscle mass you have as you get older, the better, correct?
Yeah.
So all these things factor into the same equation. So when you asked me before, what type of people do I want to work with, or what are we working with? That's the mindset that I want. People that are healthy, active, that want to remain that way. So the injuries are a part of it. But once we cure the injury, we still have the rest of the body to look at. We still have the long-term approach. Longevity, I heard you had somebody in here recently was talking about longevity. Somebody else that was in here, your last interview that you put up was talking about the training.
Yeah, I think it might have been David Alexander.
We look at guys like Tom Brady. Tom Brady's regiment, what he eats, his diet. We see guys now that are 40 years old that are still playing in the NFL. That wasn't even heard of 20 years ago. And what a lot of these guys say is they wish they were doing the things they started doing when they were 35 or 40. They wish they were doing them when they were 20. Nobody can tell us anything when we're 20 years old.
Of course. Hindsight's 20/20, no?
But now I'm seeing a lot of these boxers that are coming up, a lot of these UFC guys that are coming up. They're in the hyperbaric chamber. They're doing the cold plunges. They're coming down. There's Rampage Jackson. He's a spokesman for another well-known stem cell place in Colombia, a great facility. He had his son is fighting now, and he had his son come in to do the treatments. Now, Rampage is doing it because he had major injuries from his career. His son is just getting started. And what he said was, I want to stop myself from getting that. I was like, that is the perfect answer. Perfect answer. He's setting himself up now. It's like did kickboxing and jiu-jitsu for years. And my thing was always the coach, oh, you better stretch, you better warm up. Who listened to him? You know, now half my injuries came from me because I didn't stretch and I didn't warm up. Like if I could go back and talk to my 20-year-old self. So hearing this kid, Rampage's son, talk about it's preventative now. He wants to get himself where he's not doing these things. Who's the fighter out of Spain just fought Max Holloway?
Not 100%.
I can't think of his name right now. He has a hyperbaric chamber in his house. He's doing these treatments early on, his rehabilitation type treatment. So if you're doing something like a steroid, what is a steroid actually doing? If you're doing it for bodybuilding, you're doing sports. It's helping you recuperate faster. So the first thing people think of, oh, you're putting on muscle mass and you're trying to get bigger as a bodybuilder. But really, if you look at things like Decadorabol and you look at other testosterones, it's a recuperative drug. So some of them are fast acting. So it gives you the ability to break down the muscle repairs quicker so that you can train more and make the muscle grow. So what might take 7 or 8 days if you tear, and I don't mean a physical tear like an injury, I mean tearing it, bodybuilding, to grow, what might take you 2 or 3 days, a week to heal, this will take you 1 or 2 days if you're taking like a Decadorabol or testosterone. So it repairs quicker to grow. It's the same thing with the stem cell. We're looking at the same thing.
Now, would stem cells bring back somebody who's been abusing testosterone? Like if somebody's been just abusing it and they just want to kind of like somehow reset, neutral.
Yeah. Well, there's so many different things right now. So it might not be one treatment of just stem cell. It's not the cure all, but a combination. So now there's different peptides now that increase testosterone levels. You have peptides now for HGH. So while you do a synthetic HGH, for instance, so let's say you're doing subcutaneous injections of HGH, what those are doing, it's spiking your HGH levels, and then they decrease, and then you put it in, it spikes it, which helps with the growth and many things. It's an anti-aging for HGH. There's a lot of different benefits for it. The peptide doesn't necessarily give you spikes. The peptide brings them up naturally and it'll keep you at a natural level. So there's also peptides for testosterone, combination of the treatments. I call it the Wolverine pack myself.
I like the name of that.
Yeah, and I've heard other people call things that too. I don't know that I thought of it. Maybe I heard it somewhere and I came up with it. Yeah. But I just get the image of Wolverine, popping out of the water with his claws and stuff. But stem cell, exosomes, NAD. I don't know if you know what NAD is.
No.
Okay, there's NAD.
What does NAD stand for?
Please, it's
well, what does it do?
So it works directly with your DNA and it repairs the DNA. So very similar to stem cells doing that to cells, this does it to the DNA, and it's an anti-aging. If you haven't done it before, highly recommend it. Very hard to find in Miami right now. It's sold out and the labs are selling out of it right now because it's getting so popular. The Kardashians were talking about it 10 years ago. Yeah. It was one of those things that only if you were a celebrity and made a lot of money, you could get, but now it's becoming more readily available. So stem cells, exosomes, NAD, regular NAD treatments. And then if you're injured, you have peptides like TB500 and PBC 157. All of these are basically doing the same thing. The two peptides are basically different amino acids, but it's helping the repair process in the body. So it's all, again, if you go back to the stems, if you go to the diet analogy, or you go to the testosterone analogy, it's the same thing with these other things. Your body is breaking down. It's not producing as much when you get older. If you have an injury, these are the things that help cure the injury, and you're just reintroducing them to the body.
Now, if for example, if a person's never taken any type of TRT or HGH, anything like that, they start taking in some of this for preventive maintenance, pretty much preventive medicine, and they take the stem cells, they take the Wolverine pack. Let's say, what would that person feel like at that moment?
Feel fantastic. Across the board. Everybody that has come down for treatment now, when we get them there, we give them one of the IV drips with the exosomes with also, different vitamins and minerals and stuff. It's kind of a little serum that we've come up with. And that's just kind of give the people that instant when they leave here going, wow, I feel fantastic. Otherwise, for the stem cell, it takes a while.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, within month 3 or 4 to month 6 to 8, everybody is calling me, telling me how fantastic they feel and they want to come back. But we're really giving very specific individualized treatment to these people. It's not a one size fits all like McDonald's. We're taking everybody. So not everybody has the same. Some people's blood work might come back fantastic. Some people's testosterone levels might be fine. If we're not testing all that other stuff and we're only doing one of the components, again, going back to the working out and dieting analogy, if you're just working out, but you're eating McDonald's and partying at a nightclub all night, you're not going to get the same results. When we look at everything as an overall picture and get everything in equal levels, now is when you start seeing those results. There hasn't been anybody that hasn't gotten to month 6 that hasn't called me and told me how amazing. We have 4-time Mr. Colombia had problems with his knees. Couple of knee surgeries. Within 3 or 4 months, he just sent me a video of him doing leg workouts that he hasn't done in 3 or 4 months. My good friend John King, IBF Pro, shoulder injuries, sending me a video now and I can't believe it. There's exercises I haven't been able to do in 15 years that he's able to do right now. Amazing. One of the doctors we're working at, just to put it in another realm from health and fitness and not something that we're directly working on now, is working on a man that was paralyzed. Completely paralyzed, breathing apparatus, can move, can sit up. The guy is now sitting up and he's starting to get use of his hands. So if it's able to work on somebody with that extreme, imagine what it's able to do for somebody who's already healthy and fit and wants to stay that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. You were talking to me about, you had a vision of a facility to be able to do not just stem cell, prevent longevity, but you also want to kind of like have very specific workouts. I think if I'm not mistaken. You tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it all encompasses. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be a clinic. Nobody wants to go to a clinic every year. I want to turn this more into a sports and health facility. Yeah. So when people come down, they can train. I mentioned that we already had a couple of UFC fighters come down to us. We're kind of pushing that agenda. After the new year, some bodybuilders also. We plan on doing a lot of sponsorship for different sporting events. So I want a facility when somebody can come down there that they can, if they stay for a while, or even short term, that we can test everything, where it can become a yearly thing, where they get an EKG, they get other examinations where we're testing their blood all the time. So it's not just for an injury. We're basically looking at the person over a long-term period of time. A facility where people can train. I mean, I listen to your podcast. You talk a lot about the connection between exercise and the mentality. I come from a background with
thank you, by the way,
of boxers, and what you say is true all the time. And if it wasn't for the gym, if it wasn't for boxing, I don't know where I would be. It's where I learned my discipline. It's where you learn how to push yourself. I want to create a facility like that. I grew up inside of boxing gyms, and I'm a gym rat myself. So to be able to put that all into one facility, for me, it's kind of a dream I didn't know I had, but it's coming true. I was in the fitness industry when I was younger, a typical personal trainer and stuff, and I had a knack for developing leads and developing businesses. So I left the health and fitness industry and basically spent the last 20 years of my life making money, but doing crap that I didn't really care, generating leads, making rich doctors richer, that sort of thing, which is, not exactly fulfilling work. And now that I'm back into this right now, I can't tell you how much better it feels. I guess I had to go through my path. Yeah. But where I am now, getting the text message, when you have a UFC champion texting you and bringing in other champions saying you got to work with this guy because of the results I have, is a fantastic feeling. I never thought, I'm giddy with some of the guy. I'm trying to stay straight faced, but some of my heroes are texting me now. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing that they're coming to me for help. And one of the guys we had, he said, he made a comment that he said, I can see that you're pushing the doctors to get the best of everything out of them. And I was so happy to hear that, because that's exactly what's going on behind it. I mean, I think we put together really a dream team, a great team of doctors, and all have their unique specialties. But I am constantly feeding them with information. I'm constantly looking at what else is out there right now. Why aren't we doing this? What is the difference between this and that? Why haven't we tested this yet? So there's so much information coming in, and there's a lot of different procedures or techniques where there's different procedures for it. And the book on some of it hasn't really been written. So it's, do we try this? Do we know what's working right now, or this new thing, a new way of doing it is showing some results? Do we try that now? So there's kind of that defining line where I'm looking at what the next procedures. For example, I told you about the new procedures for lungs, and it's just how many units you're using per day and the frequency. Things like that are changing and evolving all the time. So when you talk about the facility, I'm also looking at, just from the medical side of it too, being able to have that type of international feel where we're also trying new things, where we're training other doctors, where we're seeing what's working, especially if we stick to that niche of health and fitness.
Yeah.
We try to do everything. I don't think it's feasible. But if we stick to that niche of health and fitness, I think we can not only be good at what we do, I think we can be leaders at what we're doing.
No, and I mean, I commend you for that. But for somebody like, for example, you're already in a niche, in a technology that's cutting edge, is brand new, stem cells. How do you stay on top of what is new? Like, where do you get your information for what's coming out new, or do you have to just do trial and error?
So, I mean, there's two things that I do now. One of them, you're going to laugh, is listening to Joe Rogan, because my God, he has so much new stuff that's on there, and he's always up on that. So I always listen to that first. I'm like, okay, what is he talking about right now? Secondly, there are sites or international sites right now that are publishing information on a regular basis for stem cell and exosomes. So it'll have the different results for it. For example, this is within the past year. There are now 8 reported cases of HIV being negative in people that had HIV because of stem cell treatment. It's amazing. There was the first one that was reported with the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a huge publication. He had an issue with his pancreas, and they were hitting him with large dosages of stem cell on a regular treatment. He had HIV. As they're doing his blood work, they realized he's not HIV positive anymore. Wow. Over a year and a half, they kept testing him. He's no longer HIV positive. Now, since then, in the past year, there's 7 or 8 more cases documented now that stem cell has cured HIV. It's crazy. China has just come out with a report. It was on Bloomberg's report. You're asking where I find this. Bloomberg has a medical journal where they basically document medical breakthroughs for financial gains for people to invest and stuff, but they do the background due diligence. China has shown that they've used stem cell to cure diabetes. Pretty amazing. So there's stuff coming out all the time that I'm looking at that's in those fields. So this goes back to when you asked me what first got into it. If you remember, the first time I remember hearing about stem cell was Peyton Manning. You know Peyton Manning's story? Mm-hmm. So Peyton Manning had neck issues, and he retired from the NFL. He went, at the time, the only place you could get the stem cell was in Germany. He went to Germany and got the stem cell treatment. A year later, he came back, played for 2 years, and won another Super Bowl. And he will say the only reason he was able to do that is because of the stem cell. He couldn't move his neck before that. He was done. But after the stem cell, he came back and played in the Super Bowl. So when you're asking me about the average person, if you're able to take an elite athlete like Peyton Manning, and he comes back, and not only comes back, but wins a Super Bowl, and he accredits it. Mike Tyson has quotes on the stem cell, Kobe Bryant, after he tore his ACL, he has quotes saying that it was the stem cell that helped him recuperate from the ACL damage. He wasn't supposed to play again. So these things have been coming out for a while. The problem was it was the elite of the elite that were able to get these procedures. Yeah. Now it's a growing field. It's a growing industry. It's growing by almost 16% a year. We're going back to Joe Rogan. It's funny. The people now that are the demographic for stem cell are white males, 35 and older, that make over $150,000 a year. That presents about 80% of the biohacking peptides and that sort of thing community. Out of that group, something like 70% of them listen to the Joe Rogan show.
I would have thought it'd be more than that.
It's still pretty high. That one show gets that many people. So when you ask what I hear about the new information, some of it comes from there, but there's these other reports that things are constantly coming out of. 3 of our doctors that we have are all part of different associations. So 2 of them were just at another association meeting within the past 2 weeks, and they come back with more information. So it's a lot of gathering new information that comes out there, new procedures. The fact that we're in Colombia and that they've made it part of their medical system now, that they're really pushing for the future. They have plastic surgery now, they have dental there, and they're very well known for it. This is just another part of their medical tourism side that they're really trying to push now and establish themselves. I think they're ranked number 3 in the world at this point.
You mentioned Colombia, man. What is it like living in Colombia now, coming from the States?
For business, slow. What takes a day in New York takes a week in Miami, takes 3 months in Colombia. But as far as just being a beautiful place with good food, and we talk about the eating here, the food in Colombia is fantastic. It's like when you go to Italy. You can eat pasta in Italy and drink all day, you lose weight and you look better. You come back here and have chicken and fish and you gain weight and you bloat up. It's, you know what I mean? It's the food, the quality there. The restaurants are great. I'm in a part of Medellin that's absolutely beautiful. It's like picture perfect.
You're in El Poblado, right? Or where?
Yeah, Palms area in El Poblado. It's absolutely beautiful there. The clinic's in a beautiful place. And I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't even thinking about that. But that is people's misconception when you say Colombia. They're thinking like, 1980s,
Pablo Escobar's running around
there. It's not. It's actually a pretty friendly place overall. It's like any other place in the world. I mean, Miami, we can go 2 blocks in the wrong direction and you're in hell. So I mean, Colombia is not even like that. It kind of deteriorates, but there's beautiful, beautiful areas. I have some clients coming down that are doctors. They're staying in this one area on like a vacation in this one mountain village up there. Absolutely beautiful. So food is fantastic. People are really nice.
Yeah. Safety concerns. I mean, I get a lot of people asking me from Colombia, and this was the same conversation. I'm like, hey, man, things have changed a lot. As a matter of fact, Medellin, I think, was one of the top cities as far as innovation in, I think it was Forbes magazine. I saw it. So this isn't like it's not a third world city. It really has come a long way.
If you see the clinics there, amazing, amazing in comparison to here. I was talking to a friend of mine. She's in Miami, and I'm on my cell phone walking the dog. And she's like, "You better be careful walking around there with your cell phone." I'm like, I feel safer here than I do in Miami. I'm like, I don't have any worries about where I am right now. My neighborhood is nice. It's a nice area. And again, it's just like any other place in the world. You can go to, Italy is beautiful. Go to the wrong parts of Napoli. And trust me, you'll be scared for your life. You know? And that's right next to Positano. It's, so it's like any other place in the world. You want to be aware of your areas. But the Medellin and the area that we're in is absolutely beautiful. Great restaurants. I always tell people, because I have that concern, like, listen, you can stay in your Airbnb at the hotel. We have a driver bringing you back and forth to the clinic. But I hope you take the time to go out, enjoy the food, meet the people, because it's an amazing city.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, actually. Like, for example, for a person who, let's say, obviously the demographic is from the United States going to Colombia, or maybe they've never been there for the first time. So let's say somebody wanted to reach out to you and say, I'm really interested in getting some type of stem cell work. I'm interested in longevity, and I want to get my life better, and I want to do preventive maintenance. What is the process like? They reach out to you, and then what happens? I mean, what?
We reach out, depending on the person's educational level, I'll send them out certain information. If they really don't know much about it, I like to send them some information to read so that once they understand that, we can kind of take it to the next level. Then we want to kind of individualize the program. So again, I get what is the price question. It's a horrible question to answer on the first phone call because I don't know what's wrong with you right now. So from that step, we'll usually order blood tests. If they have an injury, we'll take an MRI that they already have. If they don't have an MRI, then we'll send them out to get an MRI done. Once we have their blood test and the MRI, I'll schedule them with an appointment with the doctor. From then, she'll come back with the treatment plan. It might be a combination of 1 to 2 doctors. First doctor that they'll talk to will be one that specifically looks at their blood, looks at the health of the body, figure out if we need to put them on supplements, if we need to do anything previous to the stem cell treatments. We want to make sure that their blood and their body's in optimal position to receive the stem cell. Second would be the physical side of it. So depending on where the injury is, I would assign a specific doctor that's, that specializes in that area and field. From there, we come up with a treatment plan. And from the treatment plan, we would decide how many days they actually need in Colombia.
So all of this is done prior to getting to Colombia, or you need them in Colombia to be able?
All this is done prior.
Prior, okay. Yeah. So you could get all this done in the States and then have the meeting going to Colombia.
Yeah. So we have 2 different blood tests. There's a general blood test, which I say general, but it's pretty elaborate, which will test everything from different enzymes, different like your hemoglobin levels, your testosterone levels, all that type of stuff to make those optimal. Some people might opt into the second test that we have, which is a DNA test. DNA test, if you have the means, I highly suggest that you get one of these tests done. It goes back to that preventative medicine, the guy you said who's healthy right now that's working out and hasn't had an injury. Well, now we have the ability with a DNA test to see what diseases you're prone to get. And now we can be preventative. Is it a change in the diet that we need to make? What changes do we need to make that make sure that you don't get these diseases that your DNA is telling us you're prone to get? So we can take a very proactive look at your health and say, okay, this is where you are now. By changing these supplements, these part of your diets now, you have a 30% chance of getting this disease. If we do these things, it brings it down to a 2% chance. So the DNA tests are pretty wild, and that's very individualized. It's a little bit more thorough. The MRIs we can order. Some people already have the MRI. So this will all be, a first consultation will be over a Zoom call with the doctors. First conversations will be with me personally, then I'll assign them to the doctors for the secondary, and then we come up with a treatment plan. As far as their staying or accommodations are concerned, if they have the time and we have an extensive treatment, we have all different arrangements for accommodation. If you want a beautiful penthouse overlooking the city, which you have a lot of our guys wanting, if you want a nice house or just stay in a hotel room, it depends on the budget or what the person is looking for, how long they're going to be there. Sometimes there's IV or the treatments we need to do previously to them coming. If they have the time, we can do them all in Colombia. If not, I'll contact a clinic that's in the local area and say this person needs this IV drip, or we'll send them supplements to get them ready before they come down, then do another blood test 30 days before they actually come down. Most of the people that we brought down now have opted to get some of our Airbnbs. We have a couple houses and we have a couple of penthouses in the city, so it's kind of nice to stay in a beautiful place when they're down there. Some people are in and out in a couple of days and just want to stay in a hotel that's close to the facility. So it really comes down to the individual arrangements.
That makes it easy, and obviously it's lucrative and it makes sense to have it that way.
We have somebody coming down now that's going to be there for 2 weeks. We have a private organic chef that's going to be cooking for them the whole time that they're there. They have it arranged that they have a massage therapist coming every 2 days. They're going to go to the hyperbaric chamber every other day in the red light sauna while they're down there. So they're actually turning into a little health retreat for themselves.
Oh, nice.
I have a group of doctors coming down, 5 doctors that renting a big house. I think it's something like 12-bedroom house with a beautiful pool. They're coming down for 7 days, and they're doing the whole treatment also. A couple of their wives aren't too happy about it, but 1 or 2 guys had to drop out, but a whole group is actually coming down. So, and they're all looking for anti-aging. So we're not even having them come into the clinic. We're doing the evaluations. The doctors are going to them and actually going to bring the nurses and do the whole treatment. If you look on my website, you'll see a couple of people we did that for. So if it's not a direct injection like into a knee or something like that, and it's just an intravenous, we actually have them go to, they don't even have to come into the clinic.
I think that's an amazing service, man. It's definitely world class, and it's very niche, and it's just, I mean, it sounds great from my end, just me listening to it. Soon. Now after this talk, I'm like, damn, it's time. We were talking about, possibly having maybe my mother and different, getting some type of treatment and stuff like that.
Sent you some of the information. I mean, I just had my mother and uncle come down, and everybody except for 2 that I treated recently that have come down that were in our age group, 40, 50 years old, has, after they've left there, said they want to bring their parents in. They bring in their parents back for it.
Yeah.
So I just showed it to you. So anybody that's listening now, maybe you could put the link up. There's Mel
Absolutely.
Gibson talking about the stem cell and what it did for his father, which I love that story. It's an amazing story. And he talks a little bit about the Mayo Clinic and what they said about stem cell. And the funny thing is I have a friend of mine that came down who also goes to the Mayo Clinic. They said the same exact thing that they said to Mel Gibson's dad, that, hocus pocus, not going to work. And then you listen to the results of what was dad. They told him that his father, I think, had a year to live. And it was 8 years later, and his father was still alive after the treatments, and a better quality of life, not just living. We want a better quality of life. We have the ability to live longer now, but if you don't have a good quality of life, do you really want to live that long? So quality of life is very, very important also.
Absolutely, man. It's kind of, it's a segue into, my father, when he was 62, he passed away. He checked himself into a hospital for a stomach ache, August 3rd, 2013. And before we, August 5th, they told us, he's got stage 4 cancer. Passed away August 31st, 2013. Mm-hmm. So 1 month down, it was like a straight downhill shot. And at the time, man, I was just out. Anything that was available, we're just trying to do. I ordered this blue, there was this very specific thing from Cuba, man. I had it shipped. It was like blue, what's the name of this? Blue scorpion vials, anything to make it work. So it just brings me back to that. And I remember those moments, and somebody passed away. My dad passed away, and I'm like, I would have done anything for him to, you know what I'm saying? So this kind of stuff is just so important. I think it just makes such a difference, which is why I'm just really taking it in and taking such interest in it. And I think anybody listening should really take it if they need it,
Your story, and I'm sorry to hear that. I mean, this year alone, 2 of my closest friends lost their father.
Right.
One of them, very similar situation to what you said, was feeling fine, goes into the hospital. Oh, you have stage 4 cancer. And 2 months later, he was gone.
Yeah.
So that goes into that preventative side of the medicine. And there's a quote, don't know who wrote the quote, but I see it all the time. And it says, you either take time for your health or you'll be forced to take time for your illness.
Yeah.
And I love that quote.
Yeah.
And it's almost frustrating on my part because I've talked to you about your mother before. And I say to people and other friends of mine, like, you have the means, just come down and do it. If you have the means to do it, there is no reason why you shouldn't do this. Doing simple things like regular blood tests. Why do you wait till you're sick to be able to do that? This can help you prevent things. This early screening can help you prevent from getting to that point. So there is a process in preventative medicine right now. It's just not pushed. This country is pushed. Wait till we get sick and then we're going to prescribe a bunch of pills.
Yeah.
As opposed to what do we do to not get sick? There are 2 of the doctors that I have coming down. They're part of an old association that I used to be a part of. They're on the phone with one of my doctors now, and they're coming down. They're interested in the anti-aging. And one of the doctors has high blood pressure. And the doctor that I have is asking what medication you're on. And then she starts talking to her about the markers and things we can do to prevent the high blood pressure. Rather than treating the high blood pressure with pills to keep it down, stopping what's making it high in the first place. And both of them were shocked. These are 2 doctors that are pretty well known. They're pretty, high up on the food chain in the medical. And they said to her, you are the first doctor that's ever said that to me before. So what you have is a combination when you're in Colombia is you have a very liberal attitude towards preventative medicine down there and things like stem cell. You also have these doctors tell me they get out of med school, they've learned this stuff after they've gotten out of med school, the preventative, because they're not even treating it. And that's why they're pushing their practices and they're pushing their field into the preventative side. Going back to the Chinese story, they're looking to prevent people from getting sick in the first place.
Yeah,
it's a right whole backwards, but when you listen to, it's so simple when I say it, going backwards and saying, hey, how could we have presented? Could you imagine with your father if we would have had blood test 5 or 6 years earlier if he was on a regular maintenance looking for this sort
absolutely.
of thing.
This would be a totally different
It'd be a
conversation.
different story right now. It wouldn't have happened. And you have that. We have the technology now. We have the test, the DNA test to say, where are you at right now? It's changed. And again, this goes to me working with that specific niche that are already healthy, trying to get somebody that's unhealthy to now I have to change your diet, I have to change your lifestyle and all this other stuff to get you to this point. It's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah.
Somebody who's already has that lifestyle and already has that mentality, it's an easy step for me to take them to the next level.
Yeah, and I think they could appreciate it more at that point. They respect it more, which is everything. So, as an entrepreneur, as a true entrepreneur, what would you say success is for you nowadays?
We talked about entrepreneurship. I think that I
I
think it's a terminology now that's used way too much, like genius these days. I don't know when it's come from being a business owner to an entrepreneur, but I think there's a distinct difference what an entrepreneur is. And
well, what's an entrepreneur to you?
Entrepreneur, well, as far as a business concerned, if you're an entrepreneur, you have a business that can grow exponentially without you being involved, that you can sell off and will continue to grow, where you aren't the focus of the business. That's what a true entrepreneur is. Entrepreneur has his hands at things that can grow, that other people can manage, that can move forward, make money, have exponential growth without you being directly involved with it. That's a true entrepreneur. Otherwise, you're a business owner. If you have to be in there every day, greasing the wheel, pushing it forward, moving it around, you're a business owner. Yeah. So I think there's a big difference in people use the terminology, very differently. Just like we were talking about branding as opposed to business. I'm a brand, I'm a business. Sort of changed over the years. I did a lot with celebrity branding. As far as success is concerned, it's changed so much for me over the years. When I was younger, I had my very first business. I started when I was 26. By the time I was 30, we were doing $30 million a year. My definition of success then was dressing up in the nice suits, going to work every day with the big office and having $500 lunches. That was my early on success. Having all the cars, sitting in the driveway, people oohing and ahhing at what kind of car I drove. That was my definition of success. And then it changed dramatically, or life changed dramatically for me. And then my definition of success was being able to sit on my boat and work from my boat, not having to go into the office, that I could show up with my laptop and flip-flops, and that was my definition of success. I think now my definition of success has changed greatly again, where it's not as much as monetary. Once you have all that shit, you realize that it's just shit. You get a nice car, it's fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's a car, I think now, looking back, if I could go back and do things over the 20 years, I would have stayed kind of in this industry. Success to me right now is owning a big piece of land and rescuing animals. I think fulfilling that, the animals that I've rescued in my life or I've fostered and stuff have meant more to me than any car that I've ever had. So I think it's freedom, a lifestyle. I think everybody's definition has to be different. I think if your definition of success is monetary, it's pretty shallow and it's going to come crashing down on you at some point. You look at Elon Musk and you say, it's got to be the epitome of success, right? He lives in a very modest home. His definition of success right now is getting everybody to Mars. It's amazing. So when people throw around, entrepreneurship or branding or success, I look at somebody like that and say, well, not even in the same level as somebody like that, or using the word visionary, or all these key terms I hear thrown around so easily. When you look at somebody like Elon Musk, it's kind of humbles you, right? You're not even in the same hemisphere of what this guy is doing, and for him, it's not monetary at all.
I see that too as well. Yeah,
he's working on a chip now that goes from the brain to the artificial rims to be able to use them. That's what he's working on. I don't know if you saw this, but he had an interview. I thought it was fantastic. And they asked him, why don't you have all the houses and the billionaire yachts and all this other crap? And he says, because it'll take up too much of my time.
I did see that.
Because I only have so much time, and my time is better spent creating that technology, getting us to Mars, being able to do those other things. I thought, wow, he's an alien. He's a freak. Yeah. So when you ask me that question, anything that I say is humbled by what somebody like that is doing, And so success now, I think that vision that I have in my head with a lot of land, being able to woke up, go to my sports facility, help people, and then go home and rescue animals, I think is enough. The cars, and I've had the boats and all that other stuff. It just really, at the end of the day, doesn't mean much of anything. So I think everybody's got to have their own personal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I respect that, and I appreciate that. What would you say, being a person that's been through a lot of different things in life, what would you say is your hardest and your toughest challenge that you have overcome?
Myself. I don't know that I've overcome it yet. My own self-destructive nature, and I think part of that comes to like what we were just talking about. I've built businesses before, but truly in the heart didn't care about the businesses. Mm-hmm. So getting the businesses to grow and make money was the ultimate goal. And once it does, what are you left with at that point? Once you buy the cars, once you have the money, it was all about building it and proving that you can build it. But if you're not really doing something you're passionate about, and I know that's cliche, it really doesn't mean anything, the monetary stuff. So I think some of the self-destructiveness that I've had to come over is because I get it to that certain point, but don't really love or care about what I'm doing. And talking about like the animal rescue and the stuff that I'm doing now, I think I'm more passionate about that than I've ever been about anything in my life. So maybe turning that around is in, but I think I've been my own worst enemy. That's the biggest obstacle that I've ever had to come over.
You've been in the gym and fitness industry. In the industry training. How long have you been doing that for now?
Oh shit! I got a before and after picture I can show you. I started working out. I got a scholarship to play ball, and they told me that I had to put on like 15 pounds, and I had no idea how to put on 15 pounds. So I was eating at the time you could get 2 Big Macs for like $1, and I had weight
How
gainer.
How long ago was this?
This is when I was maybe 16, 17 years old. So 150 years ago, something like that. I had the weight gainer shakes with ice cream. Yeah. So I put on 15 pounds, but I was skinny with a gut, Right. And a friend of mine who was a chiropractor that I saw at the gym, I have two guys that I met at the gym. My friend John, who I mentioned before, is the IBF pro that did his shoulders. I met him about 19 at the gym, and he had the biggest legs I've ever seen in my life. And I walked up to him and I said, "Please, sir, show me how to grow legs." And I wound up training with him for 2 years. But I can show you pictures of me from at 19 years old when I first started training, and I can tell you, you will never see, there's no more before afters pictures of me. I've always been in shape. Recently, I had a health scare, which when we first met, I was probably about 15 pounds overweight. I got mold toxicity poison, which is another thing too, which, God has a funny way of putting things in front of you and challenges in front of you. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the things that's changed my direction with this stem cell and really talking about preventative medicine, because for the first time in my life, I was sick. Anybody who has mold toxicity, it's pretty horrible.
And what is that exactly?
So I had rented this big 3-story penthouse in Medellin, absolutely beautiful, total pimp pad, big open windows, big open terrace upstairs. It would rain would come in the house, didn't think much of it, found out that there was mold inside of all the walls inside of the house. I had, my skin broke out, my head was foggy, it messes with your hormone levels. I had lost a bunch of weight, didn't know why I was losing weight. Bloated stomach. There's a ton of symptoms to where it would have taken a Dr. House to figure out what was wrong. And I'm trying to figure out what was wrong. And finally, a girl that I was friends with, she'd stay at the house. She was a doctor. And she would tell me, if I stay at your house for more than 3 days, I feel sick after I leave that. I think you got to get out of the house. And I was trying everything. And I got out of the house. And within 2 months after being out of the house, I felt a dramatic change from as sick as I was. I was exhausted, no energy. And I went back and I looked, and it was mold toxicity. Mm. And again, I think that there's always some infinite power out there that kind of pushes you in a certain direction. And now that for the first time in my life, I've always been, it's all mentality. No matter how bad you're hurt, you got to get out there, put your boots on and do it. All that type of bullshit's always what I lived by. I was so sick I couldn't do it. There was no just getting up out of bed and being able to do something like that. I was floored for weeks at a time for this. So it was the first time in my life I really lost my health.
So what are you doing? What does your day look like now as far as training, eating? What are you?
Yeah, so I haven't, because of this health scare that I had, I did a couple of detox. I think when I first met you, I told you I had just done like a 4-day cleanse where I didn't eat. I've done
I remember something.
2 or 3 of those now throughout the past year. I haven't done any HGH and any testosterone in the past year, so I'm about as completely natural as you can be. From the mold toxicity, actually, surprisingly enough, it creates muscle tears. Your muscle fibers actually get weak. So I had a tear in my shoulder. I tore something in my ankle at the time, something in my lower back. All that stuff's starting to heal now. I've taken the past 6 months to completely detox myself. And now I'm getting back on a diet, and I plan on doing my first cycle in a year. And my goal is to do a show in June. So my diet is old school bodybuilding diet: chicken and rice, fish and rice, egg whites and oatmeal in the morning, 6 meals a day. If I can get a 7th one in, or a protein shake, I do every 2 hours. I love eating like that. I mean, I've done it pretty much, like I said, when I learned from the bodybuilders when I was 19, 20 years old. That's pretty much been my diet my entire life. I don't like eating any other way. I feel like shit. Like every once in a while I got to have a pizza or a burger, and I usually regret it, after I eat it. So eating that kind of diet for me is easy. I enjoy it. I've added a little more fruits and vegetables into it, I think, over the past years. Kind of changed that up a little bit. So maybe a little more sugar with the fruits. But again, getting in this field with longevity, I think the vegetables and the fruits are, extremely important. I think it's something that's lacking a little bit in a bodybuilder diet of just protein and, low carbs. You're having potatoes and rice, but really not mixing in those other vegetables, sometimes broccoli. So average day is waking up. I'm not an early riser. I'm a late worker. So I'm not one of those 4 a.m. type of guys. If I roll out of bed at 8 o'clock, I feel better. I feel like my day is more productive. If I wake up early, I feel tired all day. Get right to eating the diet, get to work, hit the gym around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it's empty. Stay there for about 2 hours. That's usually the highlight of my day. Get back home, do some work, and mostly Netflix with the dog.
Are you doing what, like 2 hours in the gym, like how many times a week?
You got to keep me out of the gym. I'm a gym rat. You know what I mean? I don't even know what to do with my off days, so I might go in and do abs or cardio or something like that. I feel like the day's not complete if you go in. Old bodybuilding training, I don't do any splits or anything like that. It's, chest day, shoulder day, leg day, arm day, that sort of thing. So very old school, same crap I've been doing pretty much my whole life.
I think it would be very interesting to do a part 2 in the facility sometime, just to kind of like show the whole stem cell and how everything works. And, maybe we'll see you in Medellin as far as that is concerned. But for him, being like, an old school a type of mentality person, get, like pretty much as you are, man's man, what would be your I would say to a message to the youth nowadays? Because you're seeing a lot of kids are just like home, not really doing anything, not moving and stuff like that. And I'm also from the old school. Everything was outside and scraping yourself and get up and don't complain and shit like that. Any good advice?
I think there's a lot of good advice, even better than mine on the internet now. I know the guy is controversial, Andrew Tate, but I was definitely before COVID on a different wavelength than I am now. And
How so?
Well, I always considered myself a Republican, but definitely more liberal, really don't care what everybody does and got along with everybody.
Right.
And I was definitely I believe the media, when my friends weren't wearing masks and I had a mask on, oh, you're a pussy wearing a mask. I'm like, it's not for me. If it saves an old woman's life or a child's life for me to wear the mask, then I'll wear it. Right. That's what I'm not doing it because I'm afraid of what was out there. I was doing it because they were telling me, and, I know Joe Rogan was talking about an experimental drug, which winds up now that he was correct. And it's turned into this whole political thing. And I didn't really believe that there was that type of machine. And I have very close friends that were very far right, would always hit me with their conspiracies. And I'd say, you're fucking nuts. You're out of your mind with this type of crap. But a lot of this shit's come true, and I remember when, Andrew Tate, when he first started coming out, for whatever reason, I was receiving a lot of his content. And here's a funny experiment for you. I have a couple of Instagram accounts for business-wise. Take another Instagram account and start liking different things that you normally wouldn't like and following things that you normally wouldn't follow. You'll see a video, let's say, of Andrew Tate saying one thing on the one where you're following him, and the one where you hate him, you'll see the same thing edited in a different direction. It's crazy. Yeah. Like, same topic, same way. But he came out and he was talking about things like, and I thought he was an idiot when he first came out, not because I didn't believe what he was saying, just because he was saying, oh, they're going to shut me down for this. And he was basically saying, get out there, work hard. You know what I mean? Don't worry about chasing women. They'll find you, get your body in shape first, then get your mind in shape and stuff. And he's like, they're going to shut me down for saying this. And I'm like, why would they shut him down for saying this? There's nothing wrong with that. And shit, if they didn't shut him down for saying that. And that kind of got me turning my head saying, well, hold on a second. I mean, I understand you might not like him saying, dating 15 women. Okay, that's fine. I can understand where that might not be appealing to somebody. But telling men to get out and not focus on, every girl and just focus on yourself and getting yourself in shape and becoming somebody that's of value. Yeah. It seems like a pretty positive message, and people are taking it very negatively. So when I saw that, I started realizing, wow, if they're trying to shut him down, I think like that.
Yeah, there is a cancel culture. Yeah, absolutely.
I know you think like that too, and it's not a political thing. It's you want to be stronger. You want to be,
Yeah, my father came in the 70s, and the only reason why he's able to stay here in the United States was because he enlisted himself in the army. He was able to, get his citizenship through there. He brought us in. So, I think maybe it's the way I was raised, but my father was a Republican, and he, I didn't understand that growing up because, when you're a kid, you're just a kid. But as you go through your own trials and tribulations, and you're like, wow, okay, you add more responsibility on your shoulders, you see what's real and what's not. And I think the more you grow, the more responsibility you have to put, the more you realize things can be very black and white. And if you don't make the right decisions, you can really be hanged for them, so to speak, So at the end of the day, man, I value hard work, merit, and all the rest to me is bullshit. So I think like that, so I appreciate that, and going back to the point, that's how I was raised, man.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a very good relationship with my father.
We went through our,
my dad was an asshole. Maybe we can cut that out, but but I do see that my friends that I had that had good relationships with your father, they're always have better relationships with other men. They're very more social. Yeah. And guys like me that didn't really have a father like that are usually a little bit more extroverted and a little more, you know what I mean? And doesn't get it close. So it's kind of a thing that's there. But like, we're going back to Andrew Tate, he has a thing where he shows him as a skinny. And the girl says to him, look at you, you're skinny and you don't have anything going for you like that. Yeah. I swear to God, I have the same story. That's what pushed, a lot of people, they say, and we talk about health and fitness and stuff, but let's be honest with you. 90% of the guys that you see in the gym training aren't training because health and fitness. They're training because at some point in their life, they realized their mind was stronger than their body was, and they wanted to catch up. They felt inferior at some point, and they wanted to get stronger. If it wasn't for boxing, jiu-jitsu, and the gym, I don't know where I would be in my life. Those disciplines and learning that stuff and knowing you can handle yourself. I mean, anybody that has prepared for a bodybuilding show, anybody who's prepared to jump in the ring and box somebody, the mentality that you have to do those things, what it takes to lead up to that. It's the same thing with everything else in life, isn't it? I mean, if I have this kid that I'm talking to right now, and God, I wish I could remember his Instagram right now. Another one, young kid, motorcycle accident, told he was never going to walk again. He's now just graduated. He's walking, drives his own car. They told him he was going to be a vegetable, basically. I've texted with them back and forth. But that's the same mentality, isn't it? The mentality that took him not listening to the doctors to get up and just do it and just go through the pain, go through the other stuff, you know? So I think it's a positive message. When he asked me originally, what would I say to younger kids? I'd say there's people out there, you know, there's great positive messages out there for younger kids right now. There's great positive messages. And we were talking about it before. You said that, you know, I've been through a lot of ups and downs in my career, a ton of them, like a roller coaster. And we spoke about these influencers now that are in their late 20s, early 30s right now, and they're bragging because they got a new Lamborghini or something like that. It's fantastic. You're in the top 90% that's earned it. But if you get to my age, guys that are my age that are still successful have lost it and remade it 3 or 4 times. Look at Anthony Robbins. Anthony Robbins talks about how he lost everything. He was $100 million in debt at one point. The downside, that's really where you learn about yourself. And there are guys that are out there now advertising that they're teaching courses. And great, you might be able to teach somebody to focus, to work hard, but there's other guys that are older out there that are teaching you how to save your money, how to prepare for those downfalls right now. So there's those guys that you can listen to. There's Greg, what's his name? Cardone maybe?
Grant Cardone.
Grant Cardone. So he says something, I heard this years ago for him, right? And this is something I didn't have when I was younger. When I first made my money, before I was 30 years old, I made quite a bit of money. I had all the toys, all the cars and stuff. And I had all that shit because I didn't know what you were supposed to do with money. I had no idea. Figured out how to make it. There's an art to making it. There's another art to keeping it and another art to making it grow. And that's the harder lesson to learn. Mm-hmm. If you learn how to make it, that's one thing. Keeping it is a whole different story. Greg Cardone, years ago, I saw him doing an interview and he started talking about discretionary income. About don't buy that car now. Take that car and invest it in a property. And the money you make off the property, that's when you buy the car. Such a simple lesson. God, I probably wouldn't have listened when I was in my 20s anyway. But man, that's some of the best advice that's out there. And now you see all these kids out there teaching courses on how to make money, but they're making those same stupid mistakes. Yeah. They're going out there, putting it in cars, depreciating assets instead of putting it someplace, you know. Talked about being an entrepreneur before, right? What my definition of being an entrepreneur was that you have a company that's sustainable and can expand exponentially without you involved. If your only stream of income now is an OnlyFans girl on somebody else's platform that you don't own, or is on Instagram selling, advice or coaching kits or something like that, you don't own that platform. What you have isn't expandable without you because you are the brand and the product right now. You're not truly an entrepreneur and you're handcuffed by the platform that you're on. So I see these guys and I see this other advice out there. There's a guy here in Miami, Shapiro, maybe? Do you know who I'm talking about?
Shapiro.
He's a builder, older guy, probably in his 60s now.
No. Shapiro, the only Shapiro I know is the commentator.
He's a builder down here. I'll send you his Instagram right now. But very good about collecting wealth and how not to go broke and how to keep it growing and putting it in the right places. So there's guys out there like that are trying to explain to these younger ones that are good at making it right now how to keep it.
Yeah. I guess you got to add a little bit from everything to be able to understand the whole perspective, you know.
One of the nice things about the social media right now is that there's a lot of shitty information, but there's also a lot of good information out there. Stuff that wasn't readily available. If you make money and you don't come from money, you don't know what to do with money. Mm-hmm. You think you do, but you don't. It's a whole different world, keeping it and knowing what to do with money when you get it. There's another guy I see here, watched him grow. He's done a phenomenal job. He's an attorney in Miami, right? Grew his Instagram from like nothing. He's got a couple 100,000 viewers on it, right? It's fantastic. And he's going out buying all these cars now. And I'm watching it and I'm like, how much is this guy making? He's buying these cars. And on one of his videos, he posted like an Andrew Tate style thing saying, I don't care what anybody tells you, if you have the money, go out and buy the car. And I'm like, you're 32 years old and you're giving this advice. It's not very good advice. And then I saw him on an interview where they asked him how much he made last year. And he said, I made $700,000 last year, which is fantastic. That's a lot of money. He's got $1 million worth of cars. You're earning backwards.
Right.
It's not the correct way to earn. And there's information out there telling you not to do it that way. There's a reason.
Liabilities.
Bunch of liabilities. And all it takes is if he gets suspended, his license suspended, somebody makes a complaint against him, and now he's got all these cars and all these payments. How long can you make all those car payments if you're not bringing any income in?
I mean, that's a tough lesson to learn, but
I've learned it twice. That's why I'm preaching. I'm not preaching from a soapbox. I'm preaching from being there. You know, I've been in that. I've been on my $1 million yacht wondering how I'm going to make it through the month right now, and everybody thinking everything is okay. You know, it's a tough position to be in.
Well, I think that's what makes, at the end of the day, that's what makes you, you know. And for me, I wouldn't change anything that I've been through. So, you know, I certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't change it either. And I don't think unless you've been through it, even though the information's out there, I don't know if I would have listened to it when I was in my 20s or early 30s either, even if it was hitting me in the face to do things differently. Because it is a lot of fun driving an expensive sports car.
Yeah, man, I was going back to the, you know, the R8. I hardly even drive the thing. So it's just one of those things, you know.
Very soon, I had a sports car, and I went to Italy for about 6 months and stayed there. And when I came back and took the car out for the first time, I sold it like 2 weeks later because I felt like an idiot. You know, your mentality changed. You know what I mean? It's, you know, Colombia. There's a lot of money in Colombia, and you know, I've been living in Miami. I went to college down here. I've been living here for years. So you kind of get accustomed to seeing a Bentley and a Ferrari on every single corner. You know, been in Colombia for 2 years. Now I come back from Miami, and now it really stands out. Like, holy crap. It's like,
Miami is just a whole nother world, man.
It's changed so much.
It really is.
So much.
It really is. So, Rust, let me ask you, if somebody wants to reach out to you, and they want to book a consultation, go through the process, where can they find you, and how does it work?
Want to give out the Instagram?
Yeah. Give out the Instagram.
Or you want my phone number?
No. I mean, whatever way to contact you. We're gonna put this on the description anyway. Mm-hmm. But at least, you know, so you can let them know from your end.
Yeah. So the Instagram is at STEM_cell_international.
Okay. And then is there a particular phone number, or they just go there or to the website?
Yeah, they can go there. They can send me a message through Instagram. Just tell me that they saw. If they're interested, I was going to throw this out there too, in the DNA test that we talked about, or the blood test. We can prescribe it here in the United States for them. I can have somebody evaluate it. Yeah. So we'll come up with some special price that if anybody's listening and at least wants to take that first one, I think everybody should at least have a blood test. If you haven't done a blood test and you know, and you're waiting for something to go wrong, like you were talking about with your father, you're too late. Yeah. You know, to be able to do it annually and get a checkup. And I know that's so hard for people to do. And I was that way also, you know, that, you know, you only went to the doctor when you were sick. The phone number, give you the business phone number.
Now, is this a WhatsApp?
Yeah. Okay. WhatsApp. It's 786-814-9170.
Okay, we'll put it in the description anyway, so it'll be there.
Yeah, if they say that they heard you on your podcast, I'll deal with them individually.
Absolutely, man, 100%. So. I would love to see people at least level up and get healthy, get have longer lives, have more thriveful lives, and have better experiences.
So I'm going to do a treatment starting now. I told you I was sick, so I've kind of waited to this point. So it's 3 phases. So I want to be able to show the difference. My goal was to be able to do another physique show in November of next year. So I'll be 54 at that time. So I'm going to be doing a couple of cycles. Then I'm going to monitor what I'm doing. I'm going to monitor my blood results. I'm also doing different stem cell IV treatments during this period of time. Straight injections into my shoulder and my calf, which I had hurt. And then also doing exosome treatments and stem cell treatments on my face, which is supposedly increase the collagen in your face. So it'll be something nice to kind of using myself as a guinea pig going through this stuff and showing the blood results at the time. And basically how to do this stuff and monitor it, make sure that you're doing it as healthy as possible.
Yeah, I'm really interested, and I would love to see the progress, and I'm sure everybody would, 100%.
I remember we got a couple of UFC guys coming down in December that we're bringing back. to do their secondary treatments also.
So aside from Mark Coleman being obviously, whoever doesn't know Mark Coleman, he's the first UFC champion. But do you have any other ones confirmed yet, or they're still kind of like up in the air?
But I haven't asked them if I can mention their
Got
name
it,
yet.
got
So
it.
I have two pretty big names that are coming with him right now.
Cool.
We're actually supposed to have a meeting on Wednesday, and they're already getting their blood tests and stuff done with him. So I haven't, like Mark first, I asked him if it's okay if I talk about him. I haven't asked these two yet.
All right, fair enough.
But one of them just fought just recently and is ranked in the top 5 in the UFC. Another guy that just retired, which is a huge name. It's going to be extremely fun. Especially, I wish I could give it away right now. His tag on Instagram is perfect for everything that we were just talking about too. So it'll actually fit really well with what we're bringing down.
Well, we'll look forward to checking it out and going maybe to like a part 2, you know?
Yes, and if you have any, because now everything is influencers and collaboration. So if there's anybody out there in the bodybuilding, boxing, or MMA, even marathon runners, anything in the sports related where you have a big following, hit me up and we'll work something out to get you taken care of and then post the results.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate it, Rustin. Thank you so much for the information. A lot of respect, and I'll catch you in Colombia maybe next time.
Bud.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Thanks. And this has been another All Day, Every Day Empire is the Way episode. I'll see you guys on the next one.